Hey everybody, so a quick little lesson here as it relates to experiments. There's some variables that we need to understand what they're called and how to identify them when you're looking at certain experiments. And all experiments have these variables in them. Being able to identify them is an important skill to have as we kind of move into looking at some experiments that I'm going to demo for you moving forward in the unit. The first one is, as you can see up here, manipulated variable, and this is just a variable in the experiment that you change, so you the experimenter. The second one is a responding variable. This is a variable that responds to the change that you made. And we'll go through some examples here in just a minute, but these are the definitions. The controlled variable is something that you make sure is constant. It doesn't change in the experiment. It remains the same. And it's important that experiments have control variables because you want to, when you're doing an experiment, test a particular variable. And if you make other things also variable in terms of that they're changing throughout the experiment, then it's hard for you to gather data that's reliable on what it is exactly that you're trying to test. So let's take a look at an example here. So the first one is this experiment here that says you're measuring the time it takes to drain fresh AA batteries as they're used in different devices. So what I want you to do is pause the video and on a piece of paper write down what you think are the manipulated variable, the responding variable, and the controlled variables. Okay, so let's take a look at the answers here, see what you got. So for this experiment, the manipulated variable, the thing that you are changing, are the different devices that you're testing. Now, in order to make sure that the different devices that you're testing, you're getting reasonable evidence for that's reliable, is you got to make sure that you're using the same batteries in all of those devices. And so that is the controlled variable for this experiment. And then the thing that you're measuring based on that change that you're making is the time it takes for those devices to drain the battery life. So let's take a look at another example. We got two more. This one says measure how well a plant will photosynthesize, in other words, how much oxygen that plant can produce, by placing a light source at different distances from the plant for a set amount of time. So again, pause the video, write down what you think the three variables might be, and come back. Okay, so here's the answers. Manipulated variable for this one is the distance of the light source. So you're going to place this light source at different distances from the plant so that the plant can get a different amount of light, varying intensity of light. Because the light source is going to be at different spots, obviously that plant is going to be able to produce more or less oxygen depending on where that light source sits. And then the controlled variable is for this going to be the type of plant. But there's also going to be some other control variables that you're going to want to make sure that you're keeping track of as well. And lots of times experiments do have multiple control variables. So another one here might be that you're going to give the plant the same amount of water when you move the light source so that the plant doesn't have nutrients in other ways that helps it photosynthesize. And you're really only testing the amount of light that is being provided to that plant and the oxygen that comes from that light intensity. So let's take a look at one more example. The last one says, what type of chocolate, dark, white, or milk will melt the fastest? So again, pause the video, write down your answers, and then come back. Okay, so here are the answers. First one is the manipulated variable. This is obviously going to be the type of chocolate, white chocolate, milk chocolate, or dark chocolate. The responding variable is going to be how long it takes for those pieces of chocolate to melt. And then the controlled variable is you want to make sure that you have that chocolate on the same amount of heat. If you turn the heat up on one type of chocolate and way down on another type of chocolate, then obviously that's going to affect the time in a way that you don't want it to. The other type of control variable that isn't listed here that you may have on your sheet is that you want to make sure that you have the same amount of chocolate, right? If you had one piece of chocolate that was 5 grams and another one that was half a pound, then the one that's smaller obviously is probably going to melt faster than the one that's larger. And so hopefully this gives you a bit of an insight into the 3 types of variables for experiments. We're going to look at an experiment here in the next little bit, and you'll have to be able to do this for that assignment.